Hello, Intro to Diversity Studies. It's Chantel Hampton. With this video today, I'm going to talk about values, how we obtain values, what our personal values are, but as well as our societal values, and how they came to be and what it really all comes down to. So when we talk about values, we have to think about who we are, what's important to us, and we call those our values. So when we look at what guides my behaviors, my actions, I think about how important other people are to me. My family is very important to me. My friends are very important to me. My colleagues at the college, my students are very important to me. And so my values, when I think about what my values are respect. My values are honesty. They are looking for the good in people. They are treating others well, treating others how they want to be treated. Those are values that are really important to me. And so, where did I learn that from? If I were to ask you, what are your top 5 values or top 10 values, and where did you learn them from? A lot of people would say, well, my family taught me my values, right? And as it is for most people, we spend the first 4 or 5 years with the attention of our family. They're the ones who set that foundation, right? They help us grow, they help us develop, they help us become who we are. So if I start there, my family certainly, right? And then any family friends, that group of people definitely helps you teach your values, because they say these things are important to us, these people are important to us. Faith definitely helps us learn what our values are and learn how to live our values, right? Also, school. When children go to school, when as young people through teenage years, definitely our values can change throughout our life, right? So when we meet a new group of friends, when we go to school and we learn new things, right, our values can change. So I'm sure I could ask each one of you individually. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And some of the things that you once believed to be true probably aren't the same. And you've grown, you've changed, you've experienced life. And that's what happens, right? But oftentimes our core values remain the same because they've been instilled in us early on. Actually, our government can also instill values in us. They can also tell us how to behave so that those values can be displayed. So while we learn our values from our family and our friends, like I said, government, our society as a whole also does a really great job of telling us, or building up our value set and behaving in that fashion. So in 1944, Gunnar Myrdal wanted to find out what the American Negro problem was. And so doing the research, talking to people, the interviews, all of that, he gathered all of this really great, really rich information. And in 1978, Reisberg decided he wanted to analyze what Myrdal learned in his research. And he said, he identified 9 values that as Americans, as a society, we say these things are very important to our culture, right? So worth and dignity of the individual, equality, inalienable rights to life, liberty, property, in the pursuit of happiness. Sounds familiar, right? Rights of freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and private association, consent of the governed, majority rule, rule of law, due process of law, and community and national welfare. So when we take a look at each of those personally, on a very personal level, we can say absolutely. And in the United States, you see these values You see them exhibited. You see them played out every day. And we're a very different nation from others around the world. We worked really hard to make that so. However, when we do look at who we are as a nation and what our values are, we also have to consider how these particular values are contradicted on a daily basis, because they are. When we talk about even number two, equality, the founding fathers wrote about freedom and equality into the Constitution, and yet many of them were slave owners. So right there, we have some contradiction. These are what we say we value, and yet this is what the case is. Also, women were unable to vote, and any person of color was not able to vote. Due process of law. We see due process of law being the corner of that being cut on a regular basis. Somebody, whomever, commits a crime, and in the court of public opinion, that person is tried and sentenced before the person ever sets foot in a courtroom. So we have those things going on. Community and national welfare. We've recently been going through this COVID-19 pandemic, and we were told we would be safer at home. So an order was handed down from the governor, right? In Wisconsin and across many states. In Wisconsin, we call it safer at home. So this order was handed down. The governor said, truly, and the CDC, we can't be gathering together. Schools are closed. Businesses, unless they're essential businesses, need to be closed. So there were a lot of precautions. But then we had people who, for different reasons, decided that they weren't going to be governed that way. They didn't have the consent to be ordered to stay at home, and they wanted to go to the bars, go to the restaurants, get their hair cut, and therefore they decided they were going to protest, assemble. Some looked at this as they're not keeping the welfare of the nation in mind. They are really all about themselves. And others said, we are keeping the welfare of our nation in mind, because who is the government to tell us that we have to stay home, that we can't go about and live our lives? So we have that going on. And then we add on what happened over the week, what happened last week with George Floyd, and how, again, due process, and this man not getting his due process, being arrested and then handcuffed on the ground, face down, and an officer kneeling on his back while three other officers watched and did and said nothing. So this man also did not have his due process. He was not being treated equally. If he would have been a white person, he would not have been put on the ground and knelt upon. If you don't believe me, I would encourage you to watch the movie The Hate You Give. Very timely. And so as a result, we have people who are protesting, peacefully protesting. And when events and actions such as these happen, and people of color protest, they're told, you can't do it that way. That's not how you protest. That's not how you make change happen. But Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and he was also told, that's not how you protest. That's not how to make change happen. At any other time that people of color have attempted to protest, they continually are told, that's not how to do it. That's not the right way to do it. But if you look throughout history, that is how so much change takes place. That's how it happens. And just because that's not your white way to do it doesn't mean it's wrong. So the protesting is an American tradition. It is something that we've done for decades, hundreds, literally hundreds of years. And it's what needs to be done to make that change happen. Whether you like what they're asking for or like what they want to change or not, it's not up to you to say you're doing it wrong. Those folks need to be able to do it in the way that is meaningful and purposeful. And unfortunately, a lot of times it takes aggressiveness in order for people to wake up and see and realize what's going on, and that change has to happen. Change needs to happen. So while we say that these values are true American values and they define our culture, it's absolutely true. But there's also so many contradictions in how we do that and how we behave in terms of these values. So yeah, sorry. So when we attempt to teach values, I'm going to move on to pages 5 and 6, and then we're going to wrap this video up for today. When we attempt to teach values, there are 7 different ways that the book identifies as being ways at work, right? So setting an example. As parents, we like to set an example. The words that we use, the actions, our behaviors, they set examples. So in my family, I have 3 teenage children. Believe it or not, I know I look terribly young for that. But my 3 teenage children have grown up in a house where mom and dad are very active and involved in our community. My husband is a firefighter. I'm on the school board. We're both first responders. When there are times of where the community needs to rally together and support one another, we're there, we help. And so as a result, our children, because they didn't have a choice, have been brought along to a lot of those activities and events, but they've also then developed that sense of our community is important to us. Rules and regulations, we see this is how we are governed, right? We have rules and regulations. And even as parents, we set rules and regulations, curfews, you have to be home by 11:30, whatever that looks like. And then persuade or convince. We really try to tell other people, this is what's good, and this is why we should behave this way, and this is how we should behave. And then the appeal to conscience, because it's the right thing to do, because this is who we are and what we believe. And then limited choices. As a parent, I love limited choices. As an instructor, I use limited choices as well. And you'll see that in some of the assignments and activities that are put out there. You have choices for how you want to respond to a reflection paper. But when my children were small and they were getting dressed and ready for school, I would set out 2 or 3 outfits. You pick whichever one of these you want to, because I would be happy with any of those choices. So I limit their choices so that they don't walk out in something really crazy, even though the youngest, it got to the point where every day it was something really crazy, but he was old enough to make that choice for himself. And it is who he is. So because he is his own person, and he wanted to express his individuality, I let him. And if he wore 2 different colored socks and a pair of shorts and a shirt that were all of different colors, I didn't care. He was dressed, they were clean clothes, he was taken care of, and it did not inhibit his learning or distract other students from their learning. So I was happy with that. And then finally, the 7th way that we teach values is through religious or cultural dogma. So like I said earlier, going to church, learning that these are our values, this is our faith, this is who we are, and this is what we practice and how we show that. So that's really what I wanted to cover with this video. In the next video, let's see, I really wanted to, oh yeah, we're going to go over some terms. that will be really important to understand and be helpful in how we work through the rest of the course. So have a great day.